We need to talk about Target. Hey y'all, welcome back to Mac the Maverick, where we talk all things well-rounded womanhood, like ethics and social responsibility. So before I even get into what's going on with Target, I just want to preface that this particular topic is eliciting a lot of strong feelings for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, and I want to hear all about them. Feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. My only ask is that you keep your comments respectful to yourselves, to me, and to each other. The second preface I want to make is that a lot of this conversation is very Black-centric for a number of reasons, but if you happen to be a non-Black person who either watches my channel or you stumbled upon this video somehow, I invite you to pull up a chair and listen, because this issue is so much bigger than Black folks. It is affecting a lot more people. It may even be affecting you or the people that you associate, love, and care about. So with that being said, y'all, we need to talk about Target. So if you follow me on social media, when I'm on social media, you may have seen me post this story back on January 18th, basically doing a countdown to Target's annual Black History Month collection, which I have looked forward to every year for some reasons that I'll talk about later on in this video. So I posted that, and then on the 23rd of January, I went into my local store, which happens to be in a predominantly white area, and I noticed that they had already started putting up the Black Beyond Measure displays in the store, and that some of the brands on those displays had already started to drop some brand new products, which I actually purchased a couple while I was in there. Not more than 24 hours later, did I see some buzz going on the internet, because Auntie Tab had posted this particular video in response to this press release from Target. So this press release, Target's belonging at Bullseye Strategy, basically addresses the rollback of their DEI programs as we knew them. And it's not just Target, it's a lot going on in our federal government. There was an executive order that happened around the same time, as well as some other companies doing the same thing. So if you are unfamiliar with DEI, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And basically, DEI is a framework that basically exists to make sure that everybody gets treated fairly, especially folks who have traditionally not been treated fairly or have been underrepresented. So in short, diversity is basically making sure that there is variety in representation of all kinds of people, all kinds of races, genders, ages, disability status, religion, even opinions, and convictions, etc., etc. It can apply to a lot of different things. And then equity is making sure that all those folks in all those categories get the same opportunities to thrive within an organization. And then inclusion is making sure you treat them people right when they get there. Basically giving people a seat at the table and making sure that the environment is welcoming for them and that they're included. What DEI is not. DEI doesn't put people in places where they are unqualified to be. And if I be 100% honest, based on everything that's going on in our political landscape, we don't need DEI to put people in places where they're not qualified to be. That is not what that is. But what DEI does do is make sure that people who are not white, not male, not several other categories, don't have the door slammed in their face for not being white, not being male, etc., etc., etc. It levels the playing field and makes sure that people are not discriminated against or mistreated based on whatever status or category they may represent. So, when it comes to Target specifically, we really need to go back to 2020. So the murder of George Floyd was a linchpin moment for race relations in this country. A tipping point, if you will, because we had been building up to that for years and years, decades, and centuries. But in response to what was going on in the landscape, Target decided to make a very public stance. So first, they put their money where their mouth was and they pledged $10 million toward social justice efforts and toward Black people's fight against racism. Also, within their organization, they established something called the REACH initiative. And REACH stands for Racial Equity Action and Change. And within that initiative, they actually established a diverse 6-member committee of executives from their company to establish and strategize in 4 different areas: team, guests, communities, and civic engagement and public policy. So team, basically making sure that Target was a good place for Black people to work and advance their careers. Guests, making sure that people like you and me felt comfortable shopping in the stores, saw themselves represented, and also putting more Black creators and brands on the shelves. And then communities, having more of that philanthropic effort and investment and volunteering, all that good stuff. And then civic engagement, dealing with policymakers, and also I think there was a voting initiative attached to that. So that's what they established in 2020. Those were the things that they were tracking in terms of goals and in terms of programs within Target. So in terms of team, I'm not a Target employee. I've never worked there, so I can't speak to what that experience was like. If you are a Target employee or have been, feel free to jump in my comments and let me know what your experience was. I'd love to hear what you have to say. In terms of the community engagement and civic engagement aspect, I did do a quick glance at the Target Foundation's website, and I saw where they did award grants to such organizations as Voices for Justice, the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, the African American Leadership Forum, and so on and so forth. I don't know to the tune of how many dollars, but I did see that at least some of that happened. But from a guest perspective, which is where I'm sitting, one of the reasons that I looked forward to highlighting this Black History collection amongst other things, is because Target is one of the only big retailers I can think of where you saw Black brands across all the spaces prominently and overtly promoted and on shelves 365 days a year, all the time. I mean, I've even done in years past not just a Black History collection, but a Black owned at Target feature on my channel, because there were enough Black owned brands occupying permanent shelf space at Target for me to do it. So that just kind of leads me to my thoughts on where we are now. So when the announcement first got rolled out, I saw a whole lot of, we need to boycott Target. I saw a lot of, I'm deleting my app, I'm not giving them another dime, I'm cutting up my red card, so on and so forth. And I understood why people felt that way, but that particular response didn't quite resonate 100% in my spirit. So that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of doing some more research for myself. My first inclination was, whose bright idea was it to release this announcement on the 24th with your Black History collection launching on January the 26th? That kind of rubbed me the wrong way and gave me the side eye. But my next biggest thought was, dang, if we go and divest all of our dollars immediately from Target, what's gonna happen to all these small brands, especially the smaller brands that are on the shelves today? Is it going to hurt them more than it helps the overall cause? So before we talk about that, let's just kind of talk about this belonging at bullseye strategy. I'm gonna link the old press release about the Reach initiative down in the comments, and I'm also gonna link this press release in case you haven't read it. I'm not gonna, bore you reading straight through it, but in short, throughout 2025, they're going to be accelerating action in key areas and implementing changes with the goal of driving growth and staying in step with the evolving external landscape. Bookmark that. We will continue to monitor and adjust as needed. Current actions include concluding our 3-year DEI goals. So evidently there was always a plan to roll back whatever set of goals they had. Concluding our Reach initiatives in 2025 as planned. I did not see that in the other press release that we just talked about, but evidently there was an expected end to that. Ensuring our employee resource groups and communities are fully focused and on development and mentorship. These communities will continue to be open to all. Further evaluating our corporate partnerships to ensure they are directly connected to our roadmap for growth. Stopping all external diversity-focused surveys, including HRC's Corporate Equality Index. And lastly, evolving our supplier diversity team to supplier engagement to better reflect our inclusive global procurement process across a broad range of suppliers, including increasing our focus on small businesses. So, my thoughts, we have to move strategically and not emotionally. So I find it interesting, just looking here at my notes, the rollback of DEI on a federal level is it's big in terms of news. But Target isn't the only private company or public company that's doing this, okay? Walmart, Meta, Ford, Jack Daniels, Toyota, Nissan, John Deere, Tractor Supply Company, Coors. Those are just the ones I can kind of name off the top of my head that have rolled back DEI efforts or made some sort of announcement concerning that. But I feel like Target is getting almost 100% of the heat behind this announcement. And I feel like a lot of the response isn't anger, is disappointment. I don't feel like people would be so upset with Target specifically if they hadn't already been doing stuff. Like, for instance, I didn't even know Walmart and Ford and them had DEI programs on their books, because you don't really see them. Perhaps theirs are more workforce specific, but again, I go in Target and I see Black brands, woman-owned brands, Latino-owned brands, LGBTQIA plus brands on their shelves, etc., all the time, every day of the week. These other brands, I wouldn't know or wouldn't have known that they had anything related to DEI without them telling me. This is my first time hearing of it. So I just find it interesting, the emotional response to Target in particular. And I feel like we keep in mind that part of the reason I guess people are so disappointed is because they were actually doing something outward facing. That's just my theory. But in terms of moving strategically, going back to my gut first reaction to this, divesting dollars immediately from Target is probably going to have a negative impact on a lot of those brands that are on the shelves. If I've done some quick glancing over social media, Auntie Tab did another video just talking about where she is. I think she has another year on her contract or so. And Maya Smith from The Doux made a post as well asking us to clear the shelves, to just go ahead and follow through. Who else? Melissa Butler of the Lip Bar did a video. All these folks have come out and kind of spoke to the climate and where they are as brands who are directly affected or will be directly affected by all of these changes. And here's the thing. Everybody's like, I won't say everybody, a lot of people are like upset with them for saying, hey, don't move so fast. But we have to remember that these brands are businesses. Target is a very big business, right? And also we have contracts. I'm legally bound, or whatever that lady said. Mama, I love you. These people are in legally binding agreements with each other. These brands can't just yank their products off the shelves any more than Target can probably yank their products off the shelves while there is an agreement in place. Furthermore, part of the reason these brands are in these partnerships with Target is to take advantage of scale, to take advantage of the type of resources that a very large distributor and manufacturer like Target can give them. So, and a lot of people are saying, well, why don't they just establish a website? It's not that easy. You still have to have warehouse space and all this kind of stuff. And not every brand has that kind of presence. I think specifically about Jungalow. If you've ever seen Opal House or Jungalow on the shelves at Target, that is a Black-owned brand. And it just so happened that Justina Blakely, is it Blakely or Blakeney? It's Justina Blakeney. She shuttered her online shop back in May of 2024 to focus on some other things. So if I'm not mistaken, she is exclusively at Target, and then she has a collaboration going on with Ruggable, but she no longer has a shop. If you want to buy from her, you have to buy at Target for right now. That may change later, but for today, those people have to deal with where we are today. Their employees, the people who they employ and help feed their families, them folks have to eat today. So whatever you decide, I feel like we have to be mindful of that. And as I'm editing, another thought that crossed my mind was all the backlash when companies kind of scale too fast and they're not able to accommodate their business growing as fast as it has. Like, I can only imagine a small brand that is going from being distributed in Target to being distributed in-house, getting inundated with however many thousands of us say we want to go direct to consumer, and then people getting upset when their orders and stuff aren't processed as fast as they want them to, when the shipping is slow, and when stuff gets lost. There's a lot more to consider there. And in that same vein, if I look back at the Belonging and Bullseye strategy, evolving our supplier diversity team to supplier engagement to better reflect our inclusive global procurement process across a broad range of suppliers, including increasing our focus on small businesses. So we affect those brands' abilities to stay on the shelves by influencing the numbers. So maybe those brands, they decide at the end of their contracts they want out and they want to go do something else. Maybe they decide we still need a large distributor, a Target or a Walmart or an Amazon or whatever of some sort to help us scale and help us be able to get our product everywhere. Even Melissa Butler was kind of speaking to that in her video. She mentioned something to the effect that she had seen like 8 or 9 brands that were yanked by Target for underperformance. So just looking at their strategy, focusing on small businesses, who's to say that they don't continue to include Black, brown, woman-owned, whomever businesses, small businesses in that strategy? But if we pull our dollars and those products don't sell well, then there's no teeth to really allow them to stay if they choose. And I'm about people having options. I like the idea of these brands who have worked so very, very hard to increase their presence, to open doors for other brands, to get their feet in the door. The lip bar. We have the lip bar because they went on Shark Tank and got shot down and they kept going. I can't imagine the climb that they had to take on to get to the place where They're everywhere. They're doing well. They've launched an entire second brand. But anyway, I would like to see them have the option to be where they want to be and where they'll thrive, and not just have to take what they can take. That's just me. So that's kind of my thoughts on that piece. And this last piece of my thoughts, it's probably going to be considered an unpopular opinion. It might even be controversial. If I'm wrong, I'll eat it later. I don't have no problem doing that. But there's a key choice of words here. Belonging at the bullseye. Belonging. I feel like within the greater landscape of DEI, affirmative action, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, all of the things that led us up to here, and also the executive orders to peel that stuff back, we can't afford to find ourselves more attached to the policy than we are to the practice. We are not there yet in terms of equality, diversity, equity, diversity, or inclusion, or equality, or anti-isms, or anti-discrimination. We're not there yet. We're obviously stay out the comment section. This is a total aside, but the comment section is a dark, shadowy place. You must never go there. It's terrible. But at the same time, when it comes to policies or strategies like DEI, the point of any good initiative is to eventually integrate those changes into your everyday standard. It has to become a permanent fixture in the culture of your organization, the culture of your community, the culture of your workplace, etc., etc. And the thing about it, policy in and of itself is great for establishing values and enforcing them. That is why they're necessary. That is why they're needed and why they mean something, right? But the policy in and of itself is not the values, and it isn't the practice in and of itself. The goal is not to need a piece of policy to govern your behavior forever and ever permanently. Amen. That governance should eventually become a way of life. And it is my hope, I have no idea because I'm not in the boardroom at Target or of any of these other corporations to know what their plans are going forward. But it would be my hope in a perfect world that a company that had a DEI program rolled it back in favor of something else, or in this case, in favor of incorporating all of those strategic things they've been doing for the past 5 years into the permanent standard of how they do business. Like, this becomes our values, this becomes our culture, this becomes our standard of how we deal with our team, how we deal with our guests, how we deal with our community, and with policymakers forever and ever, because this is what we stand for, paper or not. So in that vein, I feel like not every company that's keeping DEI on paper is doing it altruistically. Matter of fact, when I think about, I'll just give Sephora and Ulta as examples. I feel like they did more of an emphasis on Black-owned brands as a result of the Pull Up or Shut Up challenge that Sharon Shooter issued. And if you notice, you go in Sephora and they do have Black-owned brands now in pretty much every category, but you see them relegated to a space like this big on a shelf and one or two products. Like, you see Danessa on the shelves. You might see a little bit of Forever Mood. You see Fenty, which is a celebrity brand. But a lot of the other smaller brands, you don't always see on shelves in stores. Same thing for Ulta. When is Serena Williams? That's a celebrity brand. Beauty Bakery is out of the question now. Minted is kind of out of the question now. I'm trying to think. Juvia's Place is permanently on the shelves at Ulta, but for the most part, everybody else, you probably have to order online. And in that particular space, where things like shade matching have been a big controversial issue, that seems a little bit disingenuous, to be honest. So I just say that to say, not every brand that keeps these efforts in place is doing it for your benefit necessarily, but vice versa might be true. I think it's important to also consider, there's a piece in here that I said bookmark: driving growth and staying in step with the evolving external landscape. Last year, Target launched a collection that they ended up having to pull because of a lot of backlash. I didn't know this because I don't drink, but apparently Coors, they did an advertisement and some folks boycotted it, and it cost them millions of dollars. It is recently, as of today, you got lawmakers that are threatening consequences to companies that continue to keep their DEI. And this is also an aside. I don't understand how a group of people that's always hollering, we need the government to be smaller, finds it palatable to intervene in private business on these particular types of matters. It shows exactly who people are. But anyway, I digress. So I can imagine, I don't know if I necessarily would sympathize, but I could see a company, especially a company of a certain size, tiptoeing a narrow tightrope of how they position certain practices amidst some of the backlash that they may have been or are currently experiencing. So again, not every company that's keeping DEI is doing it because they love everybody. But I don't know necessarily that every company that is peeling it back behind that name on paper is doing it to malign the folks who are impacted by it. But going back to strategic use of words, belonging at the bullseye. Belonging, but vice versa might be true. So the last thing that I will say kind of on that note, just looking at Target strategy, belonging at the bullseye, belonging. There was a quote as I was doing my research for this video that really caught my attention. And it's a quote by Arthur Chan, who is a DEI expert and strategist. And he said, diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, and belonging is an outcome. And I had never heard of belonging specifically dealing with DEI, but in my research, I saw a ton of diagrams, Venn diagrams with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging was the intersection of all three of those concepts. So belonging as a concept is an extension of DEI and not a departure. So I don't mean to be like Pollyannish or, naive. Target is a major corporation and they're going to do what they need to do to make money. But just based on what they have done for the past 5 years, I'm very curious, and who they have in their boardroom right now. I'm very curious as to what, if anything, they replace this with, and what this belonging at bullseye strategy looks like in practice in the absence of a specifically named DEI strategy. Like, I'm a firm believer that you don't necessarily need a piece of paper to do right. I mean, integrity is what you do when nobody is looking, basically. So I'm just interested to see what happens as those contracts expire, what happens on the heels of our response to this announcement, and what, if anything, they do to respond to the general public. I'm just kind of watching and waiting. Also, for what it's worth, I forgot to mention my decision. As for me and mine, I'm continuing to support the brands that are on the shelves. The shirt that I am wearing in this video is actually from this year's Black History Month collection. I did pick it up this past Sunday because I know that those brands have probably been working on their collection and their collaboration with Target for months and months and months and months prior to this announcement. And one of the things I always look forward to about this particular collection is it introducing brands that we've never heard of or haven't gotten a lot of exposure, kind of like what Tabitha Brown was saying. For some of these brands, this is their very first big break. So even if I decide to pull my dollars later, at least I can say, oh man, I was introduced to Legendary Roots, which is the artist behind the shirt that I'm wearing, or Bridgeforth Farms, the Cotton Folks, or Be Rooted, whomever it may be. So that is my decision. Y'all can do what you want. So I feel like if you choose to boycott Target, I respect that. I understand your feelings. Do what you need to do. If you feel like I'm gonna shop at Target, but I'm rooting for everybody black, I understand that too. And I respect that. Just to really be thoughtful about, what you do with your dollar. Do your own research. Don't believe everything on social media, and just do what's best for you and your family. I understand that not everybody has access to everything where they are. And I don't take for granted that people have the same options to do what everyone else is doing, So, just food for thought, chew on that. Y'all let me know what you all think. If you are not subscribed, I invite you to subscribe. I'd love to have you here. And make sure you turn on your notifications for the next one. So YouTube should be recommending something else for you to watch on my channel if you want to hang around. If not, I hope to see you on the next one. So until then, buy what you love what you buy, and do what is best for you. See y'all later.